'Twas the Saturday before Christmas, and all through the shop, a bunch of knives were sent in. Most for work, but some were just to talk about. Hey, what's up, y'all? Saturday, Merry Christmas. Y'all hope y'all see it. Have a good one. Probably come out Christmas Eve. Probably epic length. Shooting for epic length. We'll see what happens. I'm going to start this one off with all the ones that Steve Clare sent in, and maybe one, maybe extras. I don't know. But I want to do it like a kind of an overview as I've handled them for a couple weeks. You got a feel for them. Didn't really do anything crazy with them, but I won't break them all down and kind of compare them all. But all these are all American companies, fairly small-ish production, not like major production or anything like that, except for maybe one, but we'll just add we'll cheat a little bit, right? All right, let's turn this thing around and get in it. All right, so the knives we got here on the table, I'll go over it again real quick. So it's the Brown FSD. This is the Ripper from Odin Customs. This is the Rubens Titanium Tools Roan. And this one is the Rosie's Rippers Reaper. And this one is Les George MK3. So now that we got all that out of the way, I believe Les George is on phosphor bronze, and I believe all the rest are on bearings. Bearings? I can't, man. I'm sorry. I'm gonna find out in a minute, right? Why am I even telling you this shit? Let's just wait and find out. How about that? We're gonna break them all down. Let's just go over like a basic, appearances, and then kind of craftsmanship, I guess, involved. Okay, or at least a machinist twist on just the outside looking in kind of thing. So production wise for these ones, and I'm gonna go ahead and throw, since I got it in my pocket anyhow today. I'm gonna throw the Performance SMF in there, because basically this is exactly what this one is. It's hand ground, but so is this one, and so is this one. So this one kind of fits in the theme of all these. So I'm just gonna set it aside. But Strider, obviously, I mean, I could do this custom either way. We'll do one of them, break it down. Basically, the same for both of those. Just hand ground knives, not machine ground. The Brown is a FSD lock. I think that's what he calls it, or the Brown lock on the FSD. Sorry. It looks similar to a compression lock on this one. But you can see the mill pattern he's got in this one. It's nothing extravagant. It is, a little bit on the programming side, a little bit different than most people, but hard chamfer on the outside of these. I'm gonna get this in focus here. Hard chamfers, just like a chamfer mill around the outside. So the finish work is decent. You can see some tooling marks in it. The backspacer, if you look at the way it's cut, let me get this little scribe so I can point out what I'm talking about. It's not just in between these two, it's cut into and then sandwiched out of. You see what I mean there? So there's definitely more thought gone into this than just, making a few parts and sandwiching them together. Lining up this sounds like something that would be hard to do, but if you're designing this on a CNC, you know exactly where this is going to sit, especially if you're cutting the outline of it and stuff. This is super easy to do with a CNC. You just have to program it all as a model and then just basically take the clip off and do the scales separately. So that's nothing extravagant. I don't understand why there's a huge gap in this, because this does tilt as it, as it engages and disengages. You can kind of see from this point of view, it'll angle slightly different as you push it in and push it out. I hope that comes off. And it's basically, instead of being straight, like right now it's straight, and then as it comes out, it's going to be angled. It has a little rotation, but the relief for that is far bigger than it needs to be. So I'm not really sure why so big right there. Maybe different button sizes are available. I don't know. I don't know much about the manufacturer, to be honest with you. The hand ground part of this one, I'm told this is like his first production knife he hand ground. And the lines do look good. They do look even. But when you feel it, I don't know, man. Maybe the dude used an old 120 or something, because it just has a weird feel to it. Like it's kind of, I'm not going to say ripply, but it's just not as smooth as what I would expect it to be looking at it. It could be just this particular model. I'm not sure. But from my standpoint, like from a machinist standpoint, and now, having a little bit of experience with the grind and the blades and stuff like that, I can see room for improvement with this one. Not like a ton, but like it's pretty top notch, but I can definitely see room for improvement. Some of the things he's done from the outside looking in that I could see improvements with, but nothing major. Like the overall fit and finish of these are pretty good. Like I don't know that I could do myself. I don't know that I could personally make a knife any better than this, but I hope to get to at least this quality. But it's good, it's nice quality, but it just shows me, I don't know, from when you look at it, it's going to sound bad saying this. When you look at it from an experienced machinist point of view, this looks like the programmer wasn't quite as experienced as some of these other programmers. And that's what I'm going to leave it at. Like, it's a damn good knife, but it just there's a little bit of CNC work to this thing that could have put it a little bit higher on the list for me as far as like what I overall like and quality of this. Obviously, none of these are my knives, well, except for the Strider that I showed you a minute ago. And really, honestly, there's probably only a couple of these that I really wouldn't mind owning, but we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. So I'll go the same route here with this Odin's Custom. What the hell is the name of this one again? Ripper. Yeah. All right. Sorry. So this is all, you can tell by the blade, just a ball path right here. In other words, a ball mill is just going, you know, transversely probably. I don't know, maybe all directional, I don't know, but it's all just a ball mill that's cutting all this. A little bit more time it's been taken with the star pattern as far as programming and stuff that goes, but again on this one, and it's just little subtleties, but you can see little subtleties like when he blends this chamfer mill into where he cut this surface. This is like a little step right there because you don't want to take the chamfer mill into the flat right there, but it's no way you're probably going to see this in video, but it's little small details from a machine point of view that I can see that I'm like, he could have just improved just a little bit. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I love this detail right here though. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is his first 100% CNC knife. I think he's been doing CNCs, if I remember correctly, basically to cut out the hole positions, to hold that hole position, and basically profile, and everything else he does by hand on his custom knives. So this is more of a production CNC style. When I say production, you're talking about one dude pressing a button. To me, this is still a custom. It's just a CNC custom at this point. I don't know. We all have, I guess, different criteria for what does what. You know, there's just little details about it like this. They're not sharp corners, but they're machined in a way you could have smoothed it out a little bit. Or so I'm just gonna point out this corner. This thing's not focused for crap. I'm trying to do the best I can here, guys. So they see this corner is kind of look a little mismatchy and stuff. That's like little stuff that you could do to kind of fix that on a programming point of view. Like steps down here in this relief. I hope they're coming across in video. But basically an end mill is running across the edges of it, but they left a little step in the middle down here at the bottom. See how that's catching right there? I mean, it's pretty easy to smooth that over if you're on the CNC doing it. I mean, it's easy to miss too, but titanium can flex as you cut it, and that could be what's doing it, but there's tool paths you can do to get rid of the stuff like that. So I'm just saying there's like a little small details. You see where the end mill stopped right here. I don't know if you can see that little, or is that a screw? That might be a screw. Never mind. That's the detent. Well, I still think it's the hole. I don't think it's, yeah, it looks like an end mill stop right there. But I'm not sure why, because that's the detent on the back side, so not 100% sure. But anyway, the same thing kind of what I said about the brown. There's like a little small stuff from an experienced machinist, as you can see it. There's like little small details that you can see improve. Like the one noticeable thing about this one is this pocket clip. It's pretty bad. And even, you know, like there's no ramp in, no ramp out. And I heard Dirk Warning talk about this knife, and he basically commented about the same about the pocket clip. Whether it works or not, like I'm, you know, functionally, it should have been better than that. Like it might actually do the job, but not very well. And the other thing I like to point out on this one is sharp corners. So especially from an aerospace point of view, almost nothing has a square corner. You want to radius the bottom of that. So you'd run like an ML through here that has like a 30 thou radius or a 20 thou radius, 60 thou radius, whatever the case may be. So you cut all these sharp corners out because things break, especially flexing things, on this sharp point. You put a radius on it, it's like a strength, like a gusset in there. So if you look at all these cuts, or 90-degree cuts, and this is not how you do most of the time. Most people don't machine that way. From an aerospace point of view, looking out, I guess. So that's just a little bit of a look-see on this one. This Roan's, a Rubens titanium tool Roan. Just from initial impressions, this guy knows how to do CNC. He's been doing CNC for a long time. Like you can see some complicated, like let's just take that pivot screw. I'm not saying it's like the prettiest or the most elaborate. I'm just saying the dude knows how to program. You can look at this and see the dude knows how to program. The pattern that's in this little, it's kind of like a jig-jag pattern. If you look at it like way, it's a nice little pattern, man. He's got it going on. He does what he's doing. Nothing over the top, but I can just tell by looking at this. This is done by a guy who has programmed quite a few parts. I doubt very seriously that this is his first part that he's ever done. But I would like to point out, like I was just criticizing this one about the square corners. If you look in here, it's a radius in this. It's not square cornered. But you see his tool marks here, right? You see his little tool marks. He could have got the tool marks out, but that's the difference between American customs and like especially a lot of the Chinese production, that sort of thing. Like those small details like that, most Americans don't really care to polish every little detail on it. So it's subtleties of these knives that just keep them. It's part of the plus and minus of the customs. Like, you know, you can't get perfection unless you're going to charge a premium so much that, you know, if the one guy is doing all this stuff, it's going to have to charge an arm and a leg. So there's a trade-off between what you do and don't do. And this one right here, I'm guaranteed, like the way this step pattern is, when the ripper, remember, it was running from blade edge up to blade spine. This one's running a horizontal path, or you know, perpendicular to the same way the other one was. And you can see the step over is smaller at the top and bigger at the bottom. So he did this is not like a consistent step over tool path. He did a progressive tool path, which is, once again, this is different than your average programmer. New guy is going to sit down and do this stuff. Is definitely going to do it different than what this knife has done. So overall, like, just not how I like the knife, but how it's machined, this one is above the other two, almost hands down for me. It just seems like a much more experienced programmer, machinist did this one versus the other one. Even the clip, like, that's nice. He did a good job on it. Clip. Still some things I think I'd like to change personally, but overall, I think this is a good quality machine part. Probably, if we're taking like programming paralysis or what a program knowledge, this is gonna take the cake. This one definitely, to me, out of all these, damn, I keep bumming this camera. This one to me is pretty much top notch. All right, so this one is the Rosie's Rippers Reaper. I believe the Reaper is the model. Rosie Rippers is the manufacturer. And I believe Steve said, let me read this real quick, Hazy Design Studio. He thinks Hazy Design Studios has something to do with this one. So I don't know who that is. And I'm assuming MC is Magna Cut, but I don't know for sure. This is probably the one out of all these that's the most simple as far as appearance goes. But when you start looking at details on this one, it's very well thought out. And quite honestly, very more my kind of knife than most of the rest of these are. Nice, everything on it's nicely machined. The geared back spacer. I mean, look at the ramp in and out on that pocket clip. The gap, your you know, what you got underneath between the top of the pocket clip, the space that you hit the jeans are going to sit in or whatever. Everything's done nice chamfer milling around this, nice and even. So I'd like to point out chamfer mill running around this outside right here. So chamfer mill is just like a straight, so it's edge, edge, and edge, right? And then if you look on this, he's got these nice, this part right here, where it transitions from here to here, and then it goes into this nice swoop right here. So it's got a nice, gentle arch for your fingers to go in. They're not even side to side. If you look really, really closely, which I'm not gonna be able to zoom in, you can kind of see the pattern is cylindrical, or basically this direction. So I believe they're done by hand. If they're done on the CNC, they're definitely angled like a fourth or a fifth to get that. But I believe they're just done on a sander. You know, like maybe a jig or maybe not jig. Maybe they're all slightly different. I don't know. I like this one the most, I think, out of all the ones that we're looking at right here, these five. Something about this one just feels good. And when Eon's Edge was over here a couple weekends ago, and I showed him all these knives because, like, you know, they're not here all the time, and these are knives that you don't commonly see, even if you did a lot of pass-around groups and stuff. These are not knives that most people put in pass-around groups. So he actually said the same thing. This is definitely more his speed. The one thing about this one, from a design point of view, is anytime you get locked in, you're choosing your hand size and hand position. So that's something that's not super great for me, but it actually works. It's just a little jammed up for me. But this overall nice, this nice stuff. This has to be hand ground, swedge, main bevel, you know, the compound grind. This is exactly what I'd try to do on a lot of the knives that I regrind. So this one's right up my alley. The finger choil is more of a sharpening choil for me. You got small digits you might be able to fit in there, but then quite honestly, like my pinky, at the edge of my pinky is still touching that little edge right there. So not really a finger choil for someone my hand size. But machine quality wise, it's finished very well. It's just simple, right? There's little details in it that make it not simple, and we're going to get into some of those when we open this thing up. You'll see more of them. But overall, like, this is a very good mixture of both CNC and hand ground, hand element too. So I dig this one. The Les George looks super simple, right? On appearances, super simple knife. Now this one definitely looks like it's machine ground to me. I don't think that's done by a human. If it is, I'm pretty damn sure it's machined. Looking at it, like, it seems too perfect to not be machine ground to me. Machine grinding definitely has a different look to it. I'll be shocked if it ain't. But I like to point out on this one an interesting thing. So we were talking about chamfer mill. So this is the difference between chamfer mill and the corner round. So this one right here, you see that the whole edge is radius. This whole edge is radius. So it's not just an angle, an angle, and an angle, but they're on the ends. It's just like this. So he has a corner round where your hand's going to roll around it this way, and chamfer mill on these other two sides, which is definitely a different way of doing it. Like, I'm kind of curious as to why he chose to just do chamfer mill here and here and not just corner around the whole thing. Like, is it a look that he wants? He wants it crispy on the edge and then radius. Can you see the difference here and here versus here and here? Like, it just looks way different, right? So I don't know if it's a look thing or not. Personally, I like corner round. I like corner round on the whole thing. Matter of fact, let me just grab the sawtooth real quick since it's sitting over here anyhow. This is the sawtooth, and these are the scales that this particular scale I made. So you see, I like the corner rounds over the chamfer mill. So this thing's all around the whole thing's corner round on the whole scale that I made. That's how I like the machine too. I like that nice. The radius feels better in my hands than basically you're feeling angle, 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 if that makes sense. So it's just a personal touch, right? But this knife is fairly simple, but yet very well executed. You can see very much precision in this. It's a very impressive knife once you have it in your hands. Like, when you look at it in pictures, you're like, this looks simple and plain. And you get it in hand and start really looking at some of the details. It's done well. So you can see that the lock bar relief is done, basically standing up, because you see this pattern here where somebody went a little too deep. See that step over right there? Oh, I don't know, maybe you guys can, maybe you can't. Anyway, tool coming in this way to do that relief. Went a little too deep, probably in one of the passes, and had to raise it up to finish the rest of it. So from a quality point of view, that should have got kicked out for that, or finished better or something. But it is what it is, you know. Like, I'm not busting balls too much. I'm just like going over what I see initially from just a machinist point of view. Everything else on the outside looks like it's finished well. You can't really see tool marks on it because they did a good job. I'm guessing they blasted it and tumbled it. Looks like it's finished pretty good. You can see a little bit of chatter in some of these machine grooves here, but overall, very nicely done. You see a little bit of chatter up in here. Overall, very nicely done. So let's stop it for a second and blow them all apart, and let's talk about construction. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. Before we do that, I might have already talked about it, but let's just look at this is the Performance SMF. So once again, like, simple, but yet great at the same time. So if you look at this is a corner round and all this, not a chamfer mount, it's a corner round, but it's very shallow corner round. So I'm guessing, looking at that's probably maybe a 60 thou corner round. I doubt it's even that much. Actually, it's probably a 30 thou corner round on that. So it's not a super long radius. It's just enough to break the edge, but it's nice and smooth. This is exactly how I like. I guess I'm just old school in that regard. You know, like, obviously the blade's been used, so forgive me on that one. But you can see the hardware is all done well. Pretty simple machining. Nothing extravagant on this as far as machine work goes, but just done very well. You don't really see chatter marks anywhere. You can't really tell if you didn't know how certain things were machined. Now, part of this is probably due to the finishing, because it is that flame pattern on top of it, and this has got that, you know, I'm assuming what they do is DLC and then go back behind it and do like a light blast to get these lines. I'm assuming that's how they make the tiger stripes on these, but I don't know for sure. But everything on this is finished well, so you don't see any tool marks and that sort of thing. But this is definitely a maker that's been doing this a long time. He's basically had the same model, so you refine over time, right? So as far as the ones on the table, as far as I know this is a fairly new model for Les George, but I bet he has more time as far as like fixing little flaws or making than all these put together. Like, these guys are small potatoes. So I would bet that, like, say Brown, for instance, I bet he hasn't made as many knives, sold as many knives as Les George did prototypes. That's just my guess. Well, Strider could probably wrap up all these guys, including all the knives that Les George made, put them all together, and I bet Strider's probably made more than all of them. So like this one should be the most refined, right? Just, I mean, he's had more time in it to refine it. So why wouldn't it be refined? Having said that, these things still come lock stick. You got to break the lock stick in. They come like you got to break them in phosphor bronze washers. These Les George phosphor bronze washers, they take half a second. They're broke in. Like, they're super nice, good action, good detent, just, you know, overall. But a lot of that is how they finish the internals here and the blade themselves. So when you start doing stuff like blasting and flame anode, that leaves a little bit of rough texture on that surface. It has to polish itself out over time. So these are things that have to work out on Strider. So just a quick point of view thoughts. Let's blow these suckers apart and get into it more. All right, we got them all blown apart. I'm gonna try to kind of go over these one by one. I don't know, I didn't really pick a particular order, if I can speak here. But we're gonna start with the runes. The Rubens rune. Rubens Titanium Tools rune. Get it right here in a minute. So, this is the inside of the rune. Forget all this stuff. Oh, so let's go over this first. So, this is proprietary hardware. Like, obviously he makes this. Nobody else does. You could probably get away with using pennies. People do all that sort of thing. But I actually just made a modified screwdriver to make it fit, match that radius, match the size so it fits in that pivot real well. But, you know, one thing you can say about him already is he's making his own hardware, or at least modifying some to work for his application. So another level of machining. So I'm not cleaning these or did anything with them. So I just wanted to kind of show you what you get as soon as you uncork one of these and see what you get. So you can see, I don't know if you can tell on this. Let's see if we can get the pointer here. This is going to be super hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in and make it a little bit better. Maybe. Okay, so in this, you can kind of see the tool pass here, right? So he's taking an end mill and circular interpolating this. It's not just counter boring that thing with like a size end mill. Say like this was a, I don't know what size it is. Say it's a 3/8. He didn't just plunge a 3/8 end mill in it. He interpolated this. So it's a different kind of look inside this cut that you can do on a machine. And basically, it's taking a smaller tool and making multiple tool passes right here. It steps out, making tool pass. It's just a level of machining that's not what most non-CNC machinists are going to do. But you can see tool marks. These are bearing races in here, so this is cleaned up a little bit better. But in these little reliefs, which y'all know how I feel about that. I hate pocket reliefs. Just leave it all the heavyweight. But you can see the tool marks in here. You can clearly see the tool path in here. What I mean by that is you see the ripples that are in that. You see the whole round right here. So you can see basically he's using a 1/4 end mill. Going around, he probably does the middle first and then goes around chasing it on the outside like this. That's how this tool path is made. And you can see you kind of circle back out to finish the path there. Nice little engraving in here, USA marked. I guess it's just as one, but I don't know what the corner thing is because it's marked on the outside of the scale. Is it this one or the other one it's marked on? Let me zoom back out for half a second so I can show you. There we go. So it's marked right here on this side right here. It's like I don't know. It's a weird little symbol. I don't know if this is a maker mark or what it is. Blade done well. You can see he masked the detent hole. Masked where the bearings go. So it's, you know, all the finish is done well. These aren't bruisers, so I can't really judge them like I would a bruiser. Like, you know what you're into knife-wise. Like if you're into action knives or you're into phosphor bronze knives, you're into bruisers or heavy duty overbuilt knives or whatever. Y'all have a different opinion about construction, right? So I'm not going to say like an engineer point of view, just from my point of view as like building something strong and that sort of thing. I can see a few flaws in this versus some other plans. So like, namely, if you look at the amount of meat that's from here to here, that's the strongest this blade's going to be. That's his weakest spot right here, the strength in that pivot, or this, around the pivot, which is basically the bearing size. So you can see that he uses a small, these are Delrin bearings, I'm pretty sure, ceramic, but Delrin. So it's not a huge diameter right here. So that's all the strength. You see how long and how wide of a stop pin he used. I'm not sure, you know, this is not like a heavy duty knife, but I'm not sure why he would use a stop pin as big, if not bigger than the pivot. It doesn't really kind of make sense to me, but he's using one for the stop and one for the open closed position. Does that make sense? So independent, not just one stop pin. So, you know, same stop pin could done both things from both sides if he machined it differently, but he just didn't machine it that way. Let's flip this over so you can see this. Nice lock bar, ceramic detent there. You can also see that he does the same thing like Hendry does and uses a bigger hole diameter here than the actual pivot. And I'm thinking what basically they do is so it'll roll out easier. Hopefully not get locked up on you. I believe that's what it is. This one's in Damascus steel. But you can see the machine tool marks. It's not like you see, especially over here. You can probably see that pretty clearly. And the other thing, the backspacer is cool. It's in there. It does its job. No qualms about it. But there's no pins in it. It's just screwed in from this side and screwed in from that side. So the screws, they're offset screws, but they're what hold this backspacer in. There's no pins. So there's nothing to keep this from shifting this way. Even with these pins in here and the pivot, so you basically got 3 points of contact on the front, this back is able to move, right? And like if here's a pivot, you can actually move the titanium like this as well. So it could be improved with, you know, another stop pin here, possibly pins in this backspacer as well, as he's got holes already drilled toward. I don't know why he didn't, or at least one hole, why he didn't put a pin in both sides. Like that would have been an easy location to put a pin. But overall, CNC, like I was saying a minute ago, you can tell that this is pretty much done with a dude who knows how to program and knows what's going on. Up next is this Brown FSD. So you can see he did a little different tool path. So he did a little bit of creative tool path in here. So this is not something you're just going to pick up and program this way. It's not, it's going to look more like this. Sorry to pick on this ruin again, but this is basically what if you're programming most program software, this is what it's going to do. It's going to generate a program that kind of cuts like this. These patterns you see in this is not something that's normally what your software is going to program. So if somebody took the time to learn a little more, to have a nice little pattern inside this. This is a nice little touch, man. This is not something you just don't sit down and do. Dude spent some time learning how to do this. This is not like, I'm not saying an experienced machinist couldn't do this in like the same amount of time it takes to do anything else, but this is definitely a programming experience thing that he pushed himself to be able to cut this pattern like this. This is not something that the software is going to kick out automatically. So props to him for that. You can see how he milled these backspacers out to fit in, so the backspacer recess in, like I was showing y'all a minute ago on this. See how it's inside, it's inset. So that adds, so it's pocketed, so it adds, like I was saying a minute ago with a pin, it adds rigidity for this, you know, lateral force that you're going to put on it. Not only that, but you also put a pin in it too. So screwed in from this side to this piece. So you see this screw here, and then also these screws go in here into the backspacer, and transversely over on this side, that screws in and go that way. So like super strong construction. That once this is together, there's no way that's moving. Pivot backs out. I mean, it might get loose, but this is not gonna. There's not gonna be any lateral force at all, like twisting force or forward to back. That keeps this knife locked in really solid. Obviously, like a compression lock side of thing. Other than it's not locking into the. It's more like a liner lock, but it's positioned, you know, back in here versus. Let's see if I can show you. Let's just put the blade in there. I'm trying to be careful because there's a bunch of stuff around here, and all these are not my nice, but you can basically see it locks in that tang, right? So similar to a compression lock, doesn't have the pins in here, but it's basically the same thing. A liner lock, compression lock, because it's locking on the back side of this, not the like a frame lock and down. Nice construction, very well, good, all the details. If I'm not mistaken, I believe, is it Brian Brown? Or is it somebody else Brown? Like, I don't know what the dude's first name is, so I think it's Brian Brown. Maybe it's Craig Brown. It's one of them Browns. Shit, sorry. Anyhow, very nicely done. You can see tool paths and tool marks. He didn't take it out, so this is what I like to see personally. Like, from an American machine point, I like to see a little bit more detail put in the part, but let me see that detail too. Don't polish it so much where I can't see some of these details. But overall, from the engineering and construction point of view, really, really dig this Brown. Is there anything really else to talk about? He used the two stop pins too, one open, one closed. But you can see on his point, like this is definitely a smaller pivot than what was on the, well, actually it might be the same size. Yeah, it's probably the same size as on that Ruben's room we saw a minute ago. So what I'm saying size-wise, I mean diameter-wise. You can see on his, he has flats, so they're basically like D-shaped pins. I don't know if you can see that or not. But one's open and one's closed on that position. And it looks like it has set screws in it. I'm not sure what the set screws do on this one. So this is definitely different construction. But I dig how it is. And you can see it's like, I'm assuming what he's doing with this is being able to adjust his stop. So basically, as you open and close this, like if you want more detent, less detent, you can kind of fudge with these set screws to give you more or less detent, because it's basically interacting with this in the frame. And if you see the look on the frame here, instead of coming like on the runes, let's see if I can grab this blade real quick. See how this is all the way down to a full radius in this corner? It doesn't have a flat spot. And if you look at the track here, you see how it has a flat spot at the end of it? So when it hits there, it's hitting this flat. So that set screw is what's contacting here and here. So basically how he made this is actually really cool. You have an adjustability here, screwing that in or out to adjust that. And it doesn't look like, see, this one's staked here. So I'm assuming he staked it to keep this one from moving. So this is, you know, one's probably your detent stop pin, closed stop pin, and the other one more open. So if you end up having shit, I'm not even camera, sorry guys. If you end up having lock percentages increasing, you can just increase this to basically, you know, push the pin out more. So instead of having to make new stop pins, you can adjust these. This is just one of those nice that, like, from after taking it apart, I'm gonna tell the dude who did this thought about it a lot. So good mind on this one. I'm pretty sure this dude's an engineer. From a machine point of view, I already said I thought it was like done well. I just see some things that like are above and beyond this one on the inside, right? And from the engineering point of view, this one seems more done well as far as the engineering goes. The machine part of it, like it's apples and oranges, depending on what you like to see. I just personally like this because this is not something a normal CNC programmer is going to do just for the hell of it on the inside of a knife. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, we on to the ripper now. Let's zoom in on this sucker. So let's zoom back out. Actually, it kind of looked like shit, didn't it? Trying to get the camera where you can see it good. Let's see. So once again, you can see tool pass on this one. So this is exactly what I'm talking about, the difference between that brown and this one. I gotta hold it to the right light so you guys can see tool pass in here. And this is like code. This is like normal code, what a normal programming code is gonna kick out and that sort of thing. Done well. But remember I was talking about before, like sharper corners? Like I don't really see any radiuses in here that are on the bottom of this that are nice and radiused. Let's see if I can grab this one again. So look at this brown. You see it in the corner? Can you see the difference in these corners? Can you see how it's got a radius in the bottom of it? Let me grab this one again. Oh shit, wrong side. See how it's square in the bottom of this one? You don't really see that. So small detail, but radius corners make a huge difference in the strength of the knife or of a material anyhow. Like in especially aerospace style stuff, you're gonna see that a lot more often. So some interesting features. Like I'm not really sure what these holes are for. If I was guessing, I'd speculate that this is fixturing. So probably machines this side first, uses these to locate on a fixture, probably the pen tool, and then machine the outside. I'm assuming that's what he did with this. So yeah, you could do it that way. But you can also hide how you do that, like the Rune did, like the Brown did. You don't see the telltale signs like this has. It's kind of like the old Sebenza 21. It's got the extra hole in it. Everybody's like, what's that for? It's for fixturing. It's basically because they weren't clever enough to do it a different way, they just did it that way. That's kind of sort of how I look at that. And that's just manufacturing. Like some people think and do things differently. That's why we're all different. That's why these knives all feel differently. That's why I personally like American-made knives way more than Chinese knives, because you get these personalities of different people's perspective on knives. So from a design point, the same thing I was talking about with the Rune. So here's your back spacer, right? Obviously sits like this, just screwed in from this side, screwed in from the other side, no pins in it, nothing to keep it rigid back and forth from side to side. I mean, I would love to see it, seeing it's sitting right here. I would love to see this incorporated into a pin and match the same thing on the other side, put a pin on it, like just save a little bit, put a pin all the way through it, give me at least one additional pin or a stop pin or something somewhere else, not stop pin, standoff rather, to give me a little bit of lateral force, because this one's the same kind of way. Smallish pivots on these. Once again, these aren't made to bruisers, so I'm judging, but I shouldn't judge. But you can also see that he was clever enough to make one stop pin with a channel in here. But once again, your weak point, right? You only got this much on your blade, between your blade and the groove, and then the groove and the outside. So not the strongest for design, but this knife is not designed to be like you know, overbuilt. It's just what I prefer, right? So I'm kind of sort of looking at through that lens, like how could I improve that from a design point of view? But very well done as far as like machining. I can see some flaws, especially in his pockets. But I say it, I keep saying it, man. But why are we putting so many pockets in things, man? Just leave it full tie. I don't know. Everybody's different, I guess, in that regard. I can't stand the pocketed out stuff. It makes a nice feel hollow and weak to me. Good size detent on this one as well. He went straight up hole. It looks like he reamed his hole in here. So good machining. Like nothing over the top, but as you can see, like you can see the different progressions of different machining, especially from the pocket point of view. And you can kind of see where I'd said that Rune was probably the best on the outside. He put all his work on the outside, but you can see that Brown put his work in everything. So every point that he touched on his all had a different kind of feel to it. So he probably had more time overall inside and outside of the knife than any of these three we looked at so far. Let's just go out and keep it moving. Why not, right? All right, I'm going to slide. Hopefully it won't be too bad for you guys. All right, Rosy Ripper time. So this one, you can already see, if you're looking at it, right? You can already see we got some engraving over here, and this is #1. Holy crap, dude. I mean, he wrote it on paper, but like when I pulled it apart, I was like, damn, this is #1. Then I look at the paper and I was like, oh yeah, it says #1 on it. But if you look inside this one, like, do you see machine marks? I can barely see them faintly. Like, granted, I need glasses, but I can barely see faint marks, tool marks around the outside where they're doing this. On top of that, you see the engraving here, American flag, a rose, and then I'm assuming this is this, what do you call it? Hazy design maybe or something. It says hazy, but I don't know what that means. I'm not familiar with that mark itself. Lock bar insert. So I meant to mention it on the Rune. It had a lock bar insert too. The Ripper did not. This one's got a lock bar insert, but I love, compared to what most people do, I love the thinking behind this particular design. This is a great design for me. You're keeping the detent ball in the titanium. So titanium is more of a malleable material than a hardened steel lock bar, right? So keeping the strength in the lock bar and then the malleable detent in the titanium and making this shape around it. This is overall, you know, the over travel stop. And just this thought process is very good to me. I like it a lot. Stop. Don't walk over here. Sorry, I got to stop the cat from walking over here. She's going to blow some nice apart on me. But overall, really cool design. I'm going to say the same thing here. He's got a hole here. This is for fixturing. He could have put a hole in that. Damn it, cat. Hang on. I got to get rid of this cat. I don't want these knives to go flying. Come here. Be easy, be easy, be easy. I'll be with you in a second. All right, big girl? All right. Sorry. Man, thought shit was going to go flying for a second there, man. We ain't having that repeat from wherever that was, a blowout I did a while ago. Anyhow, as I was saying, there's no stop pins in this, so it's screwed from one side and screwed from the other side. If you put a pin in here, extra rigidity, that's the only thing I could like to see. I like when they put the blind screws in the back. Even though the blind screws are in the back, going, you know, where you never really see them looking inside the knife, yeah, he still anodized them. So he took the extra time to anodize the hardware that even you're not even going to see. Like, that's an extra touch, right? We all like the extra touches. These little, I don't know, Jeeps, they call them Easter eggs. And I guess a Bronco's got the same kind of thing. Our Bronco's got like little, you know, Bronco symbols and stuff hidden in it. It's kind of the same thing here. Like, when you see this stuff, you can kind of see little details. You can see some tooling marks he's done. I like the way he did his cutout, plunged in with the end mill, it looks like. Standing up, or maybe he did it with a ball on the ball path. But overall, good construction, right? I like the engineering behind it. It's simple, but it works. I like to point out that how close, like if you look at how, if you think of, what is it, the triangular lock geometry or whatever else, this 5 o'clock position is a really good position. He's actually a little bit beyond 5 o'clock as far as the stop position. So it's a smart design. Good strength with the triangular. I like that. I like everything about how this one's made, other than I wish he made that into an actual pin and put the pin in the stop or in the backspacer. Excuse me, just give it a little more construction or a little more rigidity in that twist in and forward to backward kind of thing from side. All right, we're on to the Les George now, right? So Les George, simple, clean, done very well. Do you see any tooling marks? There's no pockets in this, so nothing you got to worry about chasing, you know, your finish with or making any fancy stuff with. It's just simple and effective. All the chamfers are done on the inside with the machine. You got that, I keep talking about it, but you got that pin in there. So this pin helps locate, but also the standoffs in this one. See these guys using backspacers. They could have done the same thing. They put a shoulder on this to locate a shoulder on this. So that's essentially a pin too. So then essentially these are 3 pins, 2 with threads, 1 non-threaded, that holds the rigidity of this thing perfect. This thing is never ever gonna twist on you. Stop pin up front, traditional location, you know, good triangularity between the 3. Like, this guy knows how to make nice and design nice. Like, he's a good maker and designer for a reason. He knows what the hell he's doing. Simple, yet very clean and effective. 100%, this guy is what I'm going after right here. Definitely. This is, I'll make whenever I make shit, I'm working up towards it. Whenever I make stuff, emulating that guy. Great design. Simple, effective, nothing fancy. Love it. Awful is obviously on phosphor bronze. Compared to the other guys, like some of these other blades are bigger than this blade, but look at the size of that pivot hole in that thing. Built good, phosphor bronze still has damn good action, man, because the finish on the blade and the finish on the titanium is done well. So the perpendicularity, parallelism of all the pieces put together, done quality, like everything about it's just done well. Love the Les George. All right, so y'all got to bear with me a minute. I'm gonna slide over here. I took the Dwyer Custom apart mainly because I know it needed to come apart because it's nasty. So you can see how disgustingly nasty. I don't think this thing has ever been apart. If it has, it's been eons ago since it done it. So figure since we're doing a strider in here, this was not necessarily all CNC, but you can definitely see that the vast majority, even on the customs, like I don't if y'all are familiar or unfamiliar with strider customs, pretty much everything on this is the same as what you're going to get on a production one, with the exception of the blade and maybe blade finishes and that sort of thing. All right, so first of all, on the striders, this is a huge pivot, different than what you're seeing, but basically think of like a hollow axle. So it's a huge diameter. So look at the size in that, that's opening that blade, right? That's a huge pivot, huge. I love it. But you can see the distance between here and the edge is your weak points. So if you were to break a strider, which, you know, I don't know if you're gonna, but if you were gonna break them, it's gonna be this. But also that you gotta think too, compared to these other knives, this one's got this, which is the thickness. So chances of you shearing something like that on this particular one are probably slim to none. Closed stop pin and regular open stop pins. So he's got 2 different stop pins, but both, this is pressed in, and this is, if you see this shouldered pin, it's shouldered to locate. So basically all these standoffs and the stop pin are all shoulder pins to this other scale. Traditionally, striders have basically a backspacer that's on the backside of this, and it has this hump in it that basically acts as a stop pin for the closed position. So basically they just mimicked it on this one. But once again, same like the Les George, this is super simple. There's nothing fancy about this. This is aluminum. This is where I was talking about that shoulder. You see how I counterboard this to locate all these pins? So this is counterboard in here. I don't know what the step is. I'm guessing 60 thou or so, 50, 60 thou. That locates on that little shoulder right there. So you got a positive engagement. The thing's super strong. It's not going to twist. It's got a stop pin that's going to locate on both the titanium and the aluminum on the edge. Big ass pivots, like, I mean, do you know it's not that much bigger than some of these other knives we got on the table? But you can see the construction on this one is, well, overbuilt, right? So you can see, definitely see, hands down, the winner for me, for engineering point of view, definitely this Strider, Les George. They're both like done well. I'm definitely all about the construction and simplicity of both these two, but the Strider, of course. But I just want to throw that in there because, you know, this one's custom because of the blade. Like, you're not going to be able to go buy, this is a Dwayne Dwyer custom, by the way. You're not going to be able to go buy one of those chisel ground by Dwayne Dwyer knives. You get more of a factory kind of, like this, you're going to get more of a factory kind of finish and blade grind like that's on the Performance. But the construction is basically the same. You can see this knife. You see the construction here. It's pretty much all the same shit, right? Slightly different. This is obviously a newer knife. This is a way older knife, but you can see that pretty much all done the same. All right, we blew them all apart. I don't know how long this video is so far, but we'll stop there for now. Hey, what's up, guys? Sunday morning. So the other rest of the video that I did last night. We were super busy yesterday. We're businesses on call. And unfortunately, we got calls in for today already. Day before Christmas. So we kind of got to go do that stuff. So I don't know if I'm going to have time to do another video or finish this one. So I'm going to cut this video here. I know it's kind of abrupt ending and I wanted to give more thoughts and stuff, but you know, I'm already on work brain, not knife brain right now. So if I get time later on this afternoon, I'll do another one, either post it tonight or tomorrow. But if not, I hope you'll have a great holiday. Hope you enjoy your families and friends, whatever you do for your holidays. Y'all be cool. See you maybe next video or maybe next week. We'll see. All right. Y'all be cool.